Hi everybody and welcome to this new lesson. In the previous lesson we get through the interface for QRadar. We understand the different menu options, and we also ingested some events and flows. We understand how to do this using the log run for events and the TCP replay, or even the echo, the simple echo command of Unix. You can use it to replay some events and pipeline to the netcat utility. It's again a common Unix utility, and we get to know about how to make a simple for loop if you want to replay these events for multiple iterations, or you can construct your own script which read from a folder of multiple log files. You have a lot of options to replay. You can utilize the Red Hat Enterprise Linux flavor of the IBM QRadar to run your own script that ingest your replay events. We saw on the internet you can download TCP bcap files for flows that you can replay through the TCP replay. I already ingested the useful events and flows into my system, which we installed together. So I will log in, and in this lesson we will try to go through the interface again, but this time we have data. So we can see in the dashboard we have offenses triggered. If we go to the log activity, we'll see logs, events coming. We'll see in the network activity flows are coming. So we need to deal with the interface now with this lot of information. So I will start in this lesson with the offense, how to understand the different attributes inside an offense that can help you to make proper offense investigation, to as an analyst, to understand which criteria is important to look after and help you. So if you go to the main page, the dashboard page, you'll be landed into the default dashboard, threat and security monitoring. You can see different graphs here. It's very useful graphs. So you have like top alarm signatures, flow paths, top category types, top system attacked, and here are the most severe offenses. So you can trigger any of these offenses and drill down and see the details, or you can simply go to the offenses tab, and this is what I will be doing. So basically you will see here the offenses. Each offense has an ID assigned by QRadar, and you can see the description, the offense type, source, magnitude, a lot of attributes. Okay, so let's pick one of them and start to understand the different attributes. You can press Control and then double click if you want to open it in another tab. So this is so I'm holding the Control button on my keyboard, and then double click here. It will open another window for the offense. So the first thing that you can see here is the offense summary. Okay, so you can see here the different attributes like magnitude, description, source IP, destination IP, a lot of things. So first, the description will tell you what was the attack. So you can read here multiple login failures for the same user, preceded by login failures, followed by success from the same username, containing an authentication attempt was unsuccessful. So this description tells you what was the attack. And the nice thing about QRadar that it combines the events triggered by multiple rules into one offense. So the offense you can consider as a case or a file that contains multiple events triggered by multiple rules. So and the relation between these events are some attribute that you choose during the creation of the rules itself. So we can see here the offense type is username. This is the attribute that is used to combine these events together. So multiple login failures for the same user, let's say Hatem, and login failures followed by success for the same user, it's Hatem again. So this is an event triggered from a rule, and this is an event triggered from another rule, but both of them are sharing the same attribute, the same username attribute. Okay, so what was the attack is told to you by the description field. Next, was it successful or not? This can be told by the severity. So we can see here, for example, the severity is 5. So the severity tells you whether your whether this attack was successful or not. So the severity is like the impact you have of this attack in your environment. So many factors affect the severity. Basically, the low-level category of the attack or the category of the attack indicates or contributes to the severity. So denial of service will have a higher severity than a normal Bing sweep, for example. So severity, if it's high, so you have, as an analyst, you should give more attention for such attacks. Who was responsible? You can see here from the offense source summary. So we, for example, here this username. In other scenarios, you may get source IP. So if we check other one with not with source IP, not a username like this one, so you will see here the source information. So this is the where you check who was responsible for this attack. Where can I find this, guys? This should be in the location. So if you have an updated network model inside your QRadar, you can quickly identify the location of the source. So for example, this IP may belong to the VPN range, or this may belong to the wireless LAN or the guest wireless in your environment. Next, how many targets are involved? So if you check here at the bottom, you can see the top 5 destination IPs are reported inside the offense. So those are the targets involved in your attack. Also, are the targets vulnerable or not? This can be checked inside the same 5 destination IPs, so you can see whether they are vulnerable or not. And the vulnerability information is this can be injected into your QRadar if you have some vulnerability scanner in your environment, or even if you have the QVM module, or you have the QVM appliance, and for sure the license for it, where you can utilize the scanners of QRadar itself to scan your environment and get information about the vulnerabilities of your assets. Next, we can look on the weight attribute of this destinations. So we can see how valuable are these targets to the business. So not all targets are equal in terms of business criticality, and assuming that our targets are all inside our environment, our organization, whether it's internal attack or someone coming from outside. So we are checking the weight, and the weight is something that the QRadar admin can configure for every asset in the environment. So the weight tells us how valuable are these targets to the business. Next, where is the evidence? If you check down, you can see here the last 10 events that contributed to this offense. So we can see here this whole events are an evidence for our offense: exploit followed by suspicious host activity, chained containing miscellaneous context login. So the evidence for this are the last 10 events, and this can be reported inside a case. For example, if this offense triggered or opened a case, you can inject these events inside the case as an evidence for that offense. Next, let's have some information about the difference between magnitude, relevance. So we have here a magnitude and relevance, severity, and credibility. So basically the magnitude indicates the relative importance of the offense. So it's actually like an overall value calculated by the QRadar system that is based on the other three attributes. So you can consider the magnitude as a summary value for the overall offense importance, and it's calculated based on the three attributes: relevance, severity, and credibility. And that's why if we go back to the all offenses, you will see that the QRadar system automatically, when you check the offenses page, will order the offenses in descending order. So the highest magnitude will be at the top, followed by lower magnitude. So this is 5, this is 5 again, but here this one has relevance of 6, while this one has relevance of 3. So it's putting the most or more severe, let's say, offenses, and at the very bottom you will see the magnitude of 3. So the QRadar is doing this for us to assist the analyst which offenses needs more attention. Okay, so here we can see the relevance 6, severity 5, credibility 4. So what are these attributes all about? So the relevance indicates the importance of the target or the destination. So as we just explained about the weight of the destinations here, when we check the top 5 destinations, we told you guys that you need to check the weight. The weight indicates how valuable these targets to the business, and this is something configurable by the QRadar admin. So the weight contributes to the relevance of the destination. So this is from the name itself relevant, whether this attack is relevant to me or not. So for example, the target may be running Apache web server, while the attack is a signature triggered by my IPS for IIS. So it's irrelevant. So in that case, not just the weight will contribute here, but maybe the vulnerability information of the asset itself can be also contributing to the relevance. So the QRadar intelligence is doing this calculation for the relevance. The severity, as we explained from a while, that it indicates the threat or the impact that the attack poses or have on your destinations. So not the relevance here. Okay, we now say it's relevant. For example, it's IIS signature and it's on IIS server. It's relevant, but how severe is this attack on the destination? Whether it's normal reconnaissance for pinging, checking if the server is alive, or it's harmful and it can cause a denial of service on the target. So here, if you check here, guys, we have the top 5 categories. So these categories more or less contribute to the severity, because each category corresponds to a specific let's say behavior for the event triggered. So you may have user login success and user login failure. So user login failure should have more severity than the user login success, and so on. If it's a denial of service, as I said, it will be different than one just navigating or trying to make reconnaissance for your ports or running services. So this is the severity. The last one is the credibility, which indicates the integrity of the offense as determined by the credibility rating that is configured in the log source. So while you configure the log sources into your QRadar system, as a QRadar admin, you configure the credibility. You can say to QRadar, this is a credible log source. Whatever logs coming from this log source, you give it higher credibility, and this actually relies on how tuned your log source. So for example, if you have an IPS that is not well tuned, and you know very well that it generates a lot of false positives, you can give this log source lower credibility. While maybe you have another endpoint or EDR solution that is very intelligent, and it has behavioral analytics, and it has artificial intelligence, and you know that it's very uncommon that it generates something that's false, so you can give this log source a higher credibility. So also the credibility increases as multiple sources report the same event. So for example, the QRadar system receives some event from the IPS1, so it gives it 3, and then IPS2 report the same, so it will increase, make it 4, and so on. So these are the relevant severity and credibility, and as we said, it contribute to the magnitude. Okay, so next we will talk about the other attributes into the we can see inside the offense. So you can see here the event and flow count. So this offense were triggered by 119 events and 0 flows. So it's not the flows or the network session information that contributed to this offense, but only the events coming from, for example, our firewalls, our proxies, our IPS, and so on. And it tells you how many categories of this 119 events, and these are seen here, guys, when the top 5 categories. So actually there is one more category that's not displayed here. So this is a nice summary, and if you press this, it will show you all the events that has been triggered. So you can see here the different events. Okay, and if we scroll down, we have already the last 10 events for this. So if you need the complete list, you can get it from here, along with a nice diagram displaying the volume of events over time. So the trend, let's say, of this event. So when any event come that match the rule, it's added automatically to the offense. So this offense is like something that combine the events triggered by multiple rules. It combines the events into one file or one case. So this makes your life easier as an analyst. So instead of seeing this repeating too much times, it's just one record, and you have the events triggered or combined here. You can see the same multiple login failures coming again here. So why this one is not combined with this one? Because this may be containing different user. So here the user is and this is the case, actually the user here is admin, while the user here is compliance. So they are different users, so that's why QRadar did not combine, because they are irrelevant to each other. And this applies also for this one. We can see they are the same offense, however the offense source is different. So the key for grouping events together are the attribute mentioned under the offense type. Here the username, we have here different usernames. That's why you can see different offenses. We have here different IPs. That's why you see different offenses for the IPs as well. Okay, so opening again, let's say this one. So we can see here the different information, and you can see also the start and the duration of the event. So the start here is this time, and the duration is like 42 minutes 36 seconds. So the start tells us the date and time when the first event or flow occurred for the offense, while the duration tells us the amount of time that has passed since the first event or flow associated with the offense was created. So as more time elapses and the more events coming for the same offense, it will be grouped inside the same offense, and we will see this count increases. Also, you can see here the networks inside this offense. So this tells us which networks contributed to this offense. So we can see also some useful attributes here. So if you check here, chained. So chained means that whether the destination IP address is chained or not. So under the top 5 destination IPs, we can see this IP, actually we can expand here. This IP is not chained, while this IP is chained. So a chained IP is associated with other offenses. So for example, a destination IP address might become the source IP for another offense, and if this is chained, you will see the yes. So if you click here, for example, this will take you to the IP address itself, and you can see it as a source IP for another offenses. So this is very useful. So returning back to our offense summary, so I'm investigating this offense and showing the top 5 destination IPs. I was able to pinpoint that this IP was chained or was belonging to another offense. So this, as an analyst, was very interesting to me. So I opened another window to check more, and I get to know that yes, it was a source IP for another event, and that's why we can see here the chained the containing miscellaneous. So exploit followed by suspicious host activity. So this was the suspicious host activity or this is the exploit scene, and this followed by suspicious host activity containing miscellaneous. So actually, if you check the definition of this rule, you will get to know that this rule is waiting for some exploit to happen, and then next some suspicious host activity will happen. So that's why the rule itself is configured with the name or the description of chaining, because the rule is doing that, actually is looking for some exploit to happen and then some other activity to happen. But the QRadar was able to correlate things together and tell you this if you are not aware about that there is another offense configured for that. So knowing just our understanding is just the chaining attribute will allow you to discover if this attribute or this IP address was a source for another one. So again, here the source IP address was actually source for one offense and the destination for another. And it happens that it can be the same source and destination, because these guys are just replay events. So the IPs or things here are not real. Also guys, here if we scroll down, we will see the top the last 5 nodes. So we already know about the top 5 source IPs, top destination IPs, top or last 10 events. There are top 5 log sources, so which log sources contributed to this offense, last 10 flows if there are any, and at the very top, after the summary, you have the last 5 nodes. So you can use as an analyst, you can use these nodes to track important information that is gathered during the offense investigation. So you can add a node. Okay, so here we can say triaging or initial investigation in progress, and then you can see here initial investigation progress. After some time you discovered the chaining and you know that this is part of another, so you open and you come here, so you find something interesting, so you come back and add another node till that found a chained target acting as a source for another offense, and we can mention the offense name. Actually, I forgot to copy, so again I will get it. This is the name of the offense. So coming back, I'm still here, the window is still open, fortunately. This is the offense name. So I add the second node, and the nice thing about QRadar that no one can delete any node, and this is for compliance purposes. So you can add node, but you cannot delete the nodes. Okay. Now we will learn about important convention in the QRadar regarding the timestamps. So while you are investigating, you need to check the evidence. So you have this last 10 events, but you may know you may want to check the whole 770 events and see the timing, how the times are coming to your QRadar system. So if you press here, you will get to the complete 770 events that are distributed here among different pages, as we can see. And you can start checking the time here. So the events are coming from bottom to up in this sequence, in this chronological order. And you may be interested about the last one, so you open it. So you will see 3 times for any event in QRadar. So the start time, the storage time, and the log source time. So if you are preparing for the analyst exam, for example, of QRadar, so this is very important, because as an analyst you need to understand the different things, and as an QRadar administrator also this is very important, as I will explain shortly. What are these different times? So when let's take a firewall as an example. When the firewall generate the event, it write syslog, it write the event in its log files, and if you ask it to send through syslog, the same log is being sent to the same solution. So the log itself, when the firewall generates, it puts the source IP, destination IP, and it also put the timestamp for the configure time on the system when the log is being generated. So this is the log source time. So the log source time is the time that is recorded in the raw event from the log source. Here in our example, it's a firewall, for example, or if we check here, it's I think it's net screen IDB. So this is the time on the net screen IDB existing inside the raw event or the raw log sent by the net screen IDB, while the start time is the time that QRadar received the raw event from the log source. Okay, so this could be different, and because these are replay events, so you can notice here the different times. So this is the time of the log generation on by the net screen IDB, and because we just replayed it today, so today is 9th of October, so I got the time, it's totally different. Okay, and the storage time is the time that QRadar stored the normalized event. So this is the time of receiving, and it could go through parsing and normalization if it's an all-in-one appliance like our case here. And the normalization, parsing and normalization sometimes takes time, so you may notice some difference here. Fortunately they are exactly the same, because this is an all-in-one appliance, so everything is on the same appliance. So from an analyst point of view, this is important to understand the different timings of the logs received. As I said, when you're checking the evidence between the if we return here to the event list, so we can understand maybe what this event came after this event, so you can understand the different timings. And from QRadar administrator point of view, this could indicate any performance issue in the network or in the system itself. If I notice that the log source time, like this case, is different from the start time, I should find a reason. Here I know the reason, because this is a replay events, but if in a production, you shouldn't find this big difference. It should be the same day at least and few seconds, but not like 1 hour or something like this. Unless you understand the reason, this is not the normal situation. Okay, and the storage time indicates internally on the system if there is a degradation in the performance. So if the start time is 3:08 and the storage time is like 3:15, so after 7 minutes, this gives the indication that the system has a big hit of load, that some events are being queued for a long time until it's parsed and normalized and so on. So you have to check your license, check the system performance to understand what's going on. If we notice that this offense is triggered by events only, you can have a case which the offense is triggered by events and flows, or only flows. So from here, from the offense list, you can check whether this offense is triggered by events or flows or both. So as we can see till now, all the replay events and flows I have are triggering only offenses based on events. Okay, we will come across the different rule types and rules based on events, on flows, and so on. So we already checked the events attributes when we opened the events assigned to this offense. So let's go for the network activity to check any flow, and I would like to show you the attributes inside the flows because it's a bit different from the events. So as you can see, it's real-time flows. So to open any of them, I have to stop first, and then I will open this one. And when you open the flow, you can see many attributes that is useful to investigate it. And one of the attributes that is important is the event name. Here the event name is unknown application, so the QRadar system is not able to recognize the application. But for some other examples, you can see the application is recognized. For example, this one is recognized as web HTTP. Okay, again, every event or every flow has relevance, severity, and credibility. And if we scroll down here, there is flow analysis, metadata. So flow direction, algorithm, single common destination port, reserved. The application determination algorithm is QRadar port based mapping. So this application was actually determined, or this event name and the application was recognized based on this algorithm, QRadar port based mapping. So sometimes it's based on the port. Sometimes QRadar can have a more intelligent way to determine the application, and if it's not able to do that, it will give you unknown. Okay, so let's check for some that has a payload. So here we have source byte and destination byte. So for example, if we open this one, source byte, destination bytes. So if we check here, this is the source payload and this is the destination payload. Since this is a known application, the payload is not recognized by the QRadar. However, if we checked like this one, maybe it can recognize the payload. Here there is no payload as well, because this is just the headers. It's actually 68. This is just header. If we check this one, I think we have a lot of payload here, or enough payload to check. So we can see here, for example, this is get/down1, and this is the response http/1.1, and so on. So not all the payload is captured, as we said that QRadar is just translating the network packets into NetFlow. So and that's why it's not giving you the complete payload. So we can see here only 65 packets in the destination payload, and the total is like 4,000 bytes, and the source payload is 39 packets with 2,352 bytes. If we check here, there is something called custom rules partially matched. So this is one rule that is being matched by this event. So it's not complete match, meaning that if you have a condition A and condition B, so condition A is matched but condition B is not matched. Okay, so this is one of the things, and this is the flow interface that we have enabled in the previous lesson, for which we replay the traffic on it. If we go to the log activity and check the events, so again we need to stop. Let's see what do we have here. So firewall permit, for example, so we see the event name, and there is something called low level category, high level category. Here it's firewall permit. So this means that the log is parsed and categorized, and is getting the complete parsing normalization. So again, source details, destination details, and we can see here the payload information. So this is the raw log received by QRadar. And the nice thing about QRadar that it accepts, or it stores the raw log along with the parsed log. So this is the parsed attributes that we can see here, parsed normalized attributes, and this is the raw, and this is for compliance purposes. So for example, in ArcSight, this is an optional thing. By default, the raw log is not sent to the ArcSight unless you enable it manually, but this is something by default in QRadar, that the raw log is sent, and this is something you cannot avoid, and this is a required thing, as I said, for compliance purpose. We can see the log source as a checkpoint, the rules that this event match, including building blocks, and there is no custom rules partially matched, and some annotations and so on. So now let's move to one interesting thing about offenses. We already now, as a wrap up to what we have mentioned, we talked about the offenses, how to check the different attributes inside the offenses, and also the events and the flows. So we see attributes inside flows, we see the attributes of the event, and we see one offense and how to check it, and how to get into the events and flows that trigger this offense. Now we need to know one or more things also about offenses. So the offense is passing through different states. As the life cycle of the offense starts as being active. So when the offense is active, the status here will show nothing actually, and after some time, like we see here, the last event flow received for this offense is 6 hours. So I think more than 5 hours and no events is coming, it turned into inactive. And so basically there is a retention for the offense, and it turns out that we can manage the retention period for this offenses in the system. Bottom line, there is a status for the offenses, and you can manage the retention from the system settings. So if you come here to the settings of and check the database settings, you can see here the offense retention period, so 30 days by default, and you can change this if you want. Okay, so according to this retention period and the life cycle of the offense, you can end up getting your offense removed from the system. So there is one option that you can apply from the actions menu in the offense page to protect an offense. So you can highlight the offense and press actions and then protect, and this will protect the offense and prevent the system from deleting it forever. Also, we already talked about this, but it's good to emphasize on it, the chaining inside the offense. So the IBM QRadar chains offenses together to reduce the number of offenses that you need to review, and this for sure reduces the time to investigate and remediate any threat. So this ends up our lesson. So we learned about offense investigation, event investigation, flow investigation, and we also learn about the offense retention and the offense chaining and how to protect your offenses. So thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.